Patrick Mahomes. I hate Andy Reid. I hate the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you're a fan of them, I hate you too. Who else is part of the Chief? Um, what's that? Isaiah Worthy, a Q2. Gino XL. Okay. Well, I seen this video. Damn, it's getting hot in there, been now. What else again? I never been there. Not as hot as your mom's. But it was like, it's time to talk about Patrick Mahomes. What is we saying about Patrick Mahomes? Cause I hate that boy. But we better not be calling that boy ass. Cause then niggas gonna have me sticking up for Patrick Mahomes, and I hate that shit. Hate that shit more than I hate y'all dads.
You. Did you watch the NFL this year? I know you did. I know you did because you watched my channel. And if you're like me, you probably noticed that something was just a little bit off this season. Outside the storylines, like the resurgence of the Seahawks, Drake May's breakout campaign, or even how the Broncos have been dominant with a rock-solid defense under Sean Payton. There's one talking
that Broncos defense was
really
defending this year, yeah.
It's the quiet
hated them boys.
Of one specific
Especially,
player.
what's his face?
Who was
that
DN,
DN,
the second coming of football.
Bonito.
Jesus. The downfall of a one.
He finished that bit off ass, but he started
that
bit off crazy.
Kind of sad. But to truly understand what I'm even talking about, we're of course going to have to go back. But here's a question for you. Do you wish you could go back to the good old days where you were just ripping packs, waiting I'm action or the club online in club.order 20% thank me later. So as the sun rises on this 2017 season, we are watching the Chiefs getting ready for a playoff performance. Andy Reid had his team on a 9-6 start with Alex Smith leading the team, and with a playoff berth already clinched, he was going to let Smith and most of the other starters sit for the final game of the season, where he would let his young, freshly drafted quarterback Patrick Mahomes take the wheel. And what Patrick would do would go a little berserk. Yeah, he wouldn't throw for a touchdown, but he would complete 22 of his 35 passes for 284 yards while methodically moving this offense of complete backups down the field with the ease greater than that which Alex Smith did with the starting crew, as he would move on to beat the Broncos 27-24 without the help of some of the most dynamic offensive weapons in the NFL, like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Alex.
So after that, the Chiefs would go on to lose in the playoffs to a Marcus Mariota-led Titans team, where Marcus would be the only quarterback in football history to throw himself a 6-yard touchdown pass.
I was that receiving him with the...
Wasn't exactly necessary to tell you, but it's one of my favorite football facts, so I'm gonna talk about it as much as I can. But the great performance of Mahomes and the lackluster loss would be enough for the Chiefs to trade away Alex Smith to the Commanders, where surely nothing bad would happen to him like all the other quarterbacks throughout the years, which brought on the Patrick Mahomes era, where things would be so much better than Chiefs' hands could have ever hoped. You see, they had some serious defensive issues this year.
Almost killed you.
5 separate teams scored over 30 points on them.
Oh yeah, they're cream cheese.
Bottom 3
These niggas is cream cheese.
But offensively, they jumped from a top 5 offense the year prior with Smith to being the #1 offense in the league. Mahomes was just doing everything anybody could have wanted. He read defenses so well. He was elusive. He could make some of these crazy arm angle throws. He'd throw the ball with his left hand. It felt like it was a matter of time before he would start throwing it behind his back or backwards, heck, even upside down. But then he would run headfirst into a year 18 Tom Brady.
Oh, he had the shots
there. Make the great mistake of scoring too fast and letting Tom Brady just methodically drive for the last 3 minutes to kick a go-ahead field goal and give Mahomes his first loss as a starter to arguably the best quarterback in the league. And the interconnectivity between Brady and Mahomes wouldn't stop there. After an exhilarating season with some games like their loss to the Rams, putting themselves in football canon for one of the most exciting games of all time, before going to the playoffs and destroying the Colts in the divisional round after securing the 1 seed, before Mahomes would get his first playoff loss as a starter to
traded for my favorite corner
Brady,
and started straight
after
selling.
Mahomes would pull off the miracle 30-second, 38-yard drive to set up a chip shot field goal, he would never see the ball again in overtime, as Tom Brady would drive a full 75 to score. But that was Patrick Mahomes year 1. He went toe-to-toe with the GOAT twice and had an exhilarating performance both times. He put together the best offense in the NFL and was making massive waves as far as showing how good the Chiefs could be. And he had no plans of letting off the gas. But the year after, they would do something Chiefs fans could only dream of, which was lead this team through a dominating
They should have traded Patrick Mahomes.
They would run the table in their own conference, and after starting maybe a little rocky at 7-4, would go undefeated after their bye week to end the season at 12-4 and as the AFC 1 seed, and then absolutely dominate the postseason. I mean, they spotted the Texans a 21-0 lead, where by halftime, the Texans wouldn't even be winning, and by the end of the game, it looked like a complete blowout in the Chiefs' favor with a 51-31 final score. Then they would run away with the second half of the conference championship before ultimately going into the Super Bowl.
Everybody gotta
get
traded.
Down 10 and throwing a pick. You would lead 21 unanswered points in one of the most exhilarating comebacks against the Niners and broke the Chiefs'
you get clapped by 20
Super Bowl drought. But unfortunately, what we learned is that he didn't just break a drought. He broke a dam holding back a bunch of Super Bowl wins. You see, the year after, even though it's in the COVID games, the Chiefs would pull off some of the best, wackiest offenses, leading the NFL in
Do I miss those days? Yeah, I miss COVID, bro.
Oh no, was starting, and let me just say, during this
quarantine
run,
went
people
too
were
bad.
already ready to crown
I was
as the best since Tom Brady, but there was
in my
one
room
problem.
chilling.
Tom Brady was still playing, and this time they could meet in the Super Bowl, and would you believe it? They were on a crash course to do just that. And the last time they met, Mahomes finally shook the skeletons out of his closet and put on an absolute fireworks show, throwing for 462 yards while running for another 28, while going up 27-10, where despite Brady's best effort, where he throws 2 touchdowns in the fourth to bring it to 27-24, this time Mahomes would get the chance to smother Brady's winning chances as he would methodically drive the ball and waste the final 4 minutes of the game. But that would be just a footnote, as the Chiefs would go back to the playoffs, beat the Browns and the Bills before getting a chance to rematch Brady, where maybe in the most rectifying game of his entire career, Mahomes appeared to be sacrificed on the field for the sake of his career. I mean, the Buccaneers defense was absolutely running him ragged, and even then everyone was saying that he was playing his heart out. I think more people cite this game and talking about his resume than talking about some of his other Super Bowl performances, and for good reason, because despite the fact that they only put up 9 points,
I didn't know this was going to be a Patrick Mahomes glaze flash. I thought it was going to be talking
went down as a mark of making him the biggest star in the NFL and the future of the sport, as the next 3 years would be nothing but solidifying.
I don't care about Patrick Mahomes enough to be.
The following year would be considered a slump year for the Chiefs, as they would start the season 3-4 before turning around and ending at 12-5,
so
and going back to the conference championship before Joe Burrow would take the spotlight, and well, Mahomes took that personally. From this point on, it was going to be a legendary
Look at where he ran.
2022 was one of the best years of his entire career. Once again, leading the
I need somebody to hit their boy
leading the league
helmet
in passing
off.
yards and touchdowns before getting injured in the final game of the season. And
all you Chiefs fans, I need y'all to be watching that game. Y'all watching the game. Y'all watching the game. Y'all watching the game.
His way through the
and I'll be y'all about like 14. Y'all about like 14.
He met a red-hot Eagles team in the A-gap to pull up a staggering win, taking down the Jalen Hurts-led team in one of the best games he ever played.
That's a beautiful
to the amazement of Chiefs fans, that was 2 Super Bowl wins in 3 appearances in just the 4 years that Patrick Mahomes had been their starter. Was it magic? Was it plot armor? I mean, the last punt was pretty lucky, but who cared? But even on that high, the unthinkable was going to happen. They were going to come back the following year and look damn good again. This time led by more of a defensive-focused team than the high-powered offense we'd previously known, but that wasn't all that would be different from the previous year. This time in the back half of their season, after starting off red hot, they would have a little bit of a collapse, going just 4-4 in their back 8 games, where they would head to the playoffs as a wild card slot and beat the Dolphins handily before having to sneak past the Bills and Ravens in a rematch of Mahomes' first Super Bowl appearance against the Niners, where through an absolutely gritty game, Mahomes would take them to overtime and be able to put together one
Kadarius Toney to be back in the league.
One of the rarest feats in football, something only 7 teams have ever done just happened, which was back-to-back Super Bowl wins. This is after, like I said, a 50-year Super Bowl drought, and now they had been to 4 of 5 of the last
stop
Super
following
Bowls
this nigga,
and
bro.
won 3 of those.
Bro,
Now,
I
admittedly,
hate
this is
Patrick
how a
Mahomes.
Chiefs fan would probably recount this tale. The reality of it is that those 2 Super Bowl wins were a little bit more dicey than I'm letting on, and required more than just their fair share of luck to fall in the Chiefs' favor. I mean, Hurts literally had the ball slip out of his hands for them to scoop and score. Then the Eagles shanked a punt, which set up an easy big return for a score. In the last drive, after throwing an incompletion to theoretically give the Eagles a minute and some change to attempt to drive to tie it, the refs threw a holding flag that many have deemed ticky-tacky to essentially end the game right there.
They need to trade him to the Vikings
In the following
for the
Super Bowl,
Vikings head
aside
coach.
from the fact that how they got there was already a little bit lucky, with the Bills kicker missing a game-tying attempt from only 44 yards out, and Zay Flowers getting the ball punched out at the 1-yard line, which 99 times out of 100 is an absolute walking touchdown.
Nah, not if he's diving like that.
Plays that decided those
I
games.
don't know. Most of those times, if he diving like that, that shit's
But then they got to the Super Bowl itself and had stuff happen like the Chiefs shanking a punt, but instead of it helping the Niners, which the shank punt did to them, it bounced off of a Niners foot, extending their own drive and essentially breathing life back into this team who was coming out really flat. Now, don't get me wrong, you cannot go on a great run like this without some level of luck. So I'm not really using this to knock them, but it's definitely worth noting that it existed. Because in 2024, we are going to see the accumulation of all that luck in probably the biggest opening to a season ever. Now, I've made multiple videos talking about just the historically lucky run the Chiefs went on in 2024, and while I'd be tempted to just point you back to one of those videos, we're going to quickly run through it. Isaiah likely put his big toenail out of bounds on the final play.
Because I know he's been with the Chiefs for 2 years.
Bengals player was a step too close on an overthrown ball. Chiefs move on to 2-0. The Falcons have a whole load of bad plays and back-to-back red zone drive in the final few minutes of the game for the Chiefs to move to 3-0. The Chargers, 4-0. A couple of true wins against the Saints and Niners before the Raiders have a fumble that would cost them any chance of winning, and followed that up with a game against the Bucks where they drop the game-clinching interception and lose the coin toss in overtime.
Oh, that was my boy, Winfrey.
7-0. The Broncos set up a chip shot field goal to win the game, and it gets blocked.
Pretty sure it's Winfrey Jr.
Then they have their first loss to the Bills to move on to 8-1, and at this point, a lot of things that had to go their way to be undefeated, but it's not even close to being the end. The Panthers put together a great drive just for their defense to wet the bed in the final seconds, 9-1. The Raiders are in legitimate game-winning position and only need to run a few more plays to kill the clock and end the game when the snap comes back when it wasn't expected to give the ball to the Chiefs. 10-1. The Chargers, 11-1. And then
I'm pretty sure his name right, Aiden O'Connor.
They coast to their final 3 games before they put up their backups against the Broncos and get taken behind the shed and shoved into a wood chipper to the tune of 38-0 slaughtering, as they now had one of their best records to date at 15-2. Now, despite the fact that they were the #1 seed and had their best record ever, a lot of people kind of felt like the Chiefs were in a bit of a bubble, and that bubble was just waiting to pop, because you
like
can't
the Broncos
expect
this year
to win every single one-score game, and yet the chips just seem to fall right for the Chiefs to be a perfect 10-0 in one-score games up to this point. Now, all we could do is sit around and hope that something would change in the postseason, but unfortunately, that was not going to be the case. Against the Texans, they would suddenly look a little bit more like their old selves. Despite it being close in the first half, the second half would see a totally out of characteristic missed extra point from the Texas kicker, Kavai Fairburn, as well as a missed field goal and a blocked field goal to keep them out of having a chance to win the game at the end. Then the Bills would have their would-be slew of questionable calls, but those kind of went both ways. But once again, it was just their 11th one-score game that happened to go their way. So yeah, they were really doing it. They were about to go to their 3rd Super Bowl in a row with a chance to three-peat it, which is a feat that no team has ever done in the history of the NFL. Had they won, it would have forever cemented them probably the best dynasty to ever exist. And sure, maybe they had changed their style of play from less of
I wasn't praying about it or
nothing,
nothing,
to more of a
but
defensive team as the offense kind of stepped back to be a role player. But, you know, that's something a lot of great quarterbacks have had to do to win Super Bowls, so no one was really going to hold that against them. But it would be what happened in the Super Bowl that would change everything. The Eagles would come out and for 50 minutes beat the ever-loving dog water out of
Oh
the Chiefs.
yeah,
Real
look at that
ball
one.
lovers will always refer
Hate
to this
these
game when they
boys.
score a 40-6, despite the 2 garbage time touchdowns that the Chiefs were able to put up in the waning minutes of the game. And this time, it had to bring up a pretty uncomfortable truth.
F the
Yes,
Chiefs.
the Chiefs had 3 Super Bowl wins,
Chiefs.
but in their 5
F
Super
the
Bowl appearances,
Chiefs.
they had a total point differential of -13. This was already starting to draw attention of people who wanted to talk about Mahomes being the greatest of all time, because really, we hadn't seen anything like this before. I mean, Brady, of course, had lost 3 Super Bowls himself, but by a total of 15 points. And you know, Peyton Manning had a bad loss in the Super Bowl in his own
shitty
right,
ass
but that was
job.
too
Oh my
easily the
God.
best defense. Peyton Manning, of course, had lost 3 Super Bowls
tweaked.
himself, but by a total
What
of
the
15 points.
fuck?
And you know, Peyton Manning had a bad
What
loss in the Super Bowl
the
in his own right, but
fuck?
that was too easily the best defense
Damn,
of our
buddy,
generation,
great
and
boost,
arguably
you
one of the
bum
best
ass.
defenses of all
Oh
time.
my
I mean,
God, I
losses
seen
this
that
bad
drop.
are saved for games like when
Damn,
Kerry
type of
Collins
drop,
led the
nigga.
Giants.
Niggas
I mean,
gotta burn your
losses
house
this
down for
bad
that.
are saved for arguably one of the best defenses
let me
of
see
all
that other
time.
one.
I mean, losses this bad
Man,
are
I
saved
mean, see, like due to the speed that the video is
arguably one of
on
the
that,
best defenses of all
I
time.
can't tell if that
I
was
mean,
like high.
losses this bad.
It could have been high or like, you feel me? I don't know. You open like that, boy, you better jump in the air and make that boy. That made that be like a 2-yard catch, no gain. You can't just. Unless it's like, man, it touched his fingertips though. Come on, he that open. He got it. It touched his tips. He got the catch now. But he a running back, especially back in the 90s. Ain't nobody. Oh, that's probably early 2000s. Who cares? Still the 90s, nigga. But ain't nobody expecting them boys to go get a motherfucking ball like that. But that first one though, that shit was terrible. Damn, that boy gotta get released. I know. What the hell, but I'm talking about back in the day, he better have gotten released. Right after that drop, that shit was terrible. What the fuck? That nigga open for 5 yards, he jump in the air. Butterfield, he better been blocking tight end, but he better been blocking his ass off. What every play better be a pancake, nigga. Dropping some shit like that type shit. You bring that nigga back to the sideline, you grab him by his helmet. What you got, boy? Boy, you got, boy. You back in the bad boy. Boy, you back in the bad boy. You back in back on special team. Then you put him on gun on special teams, and you let him go. You trying to go take the nigga head off. You better get that ball back. And if you don't get that ball back, you better pack them bags, baby boy. See, either you or him, somebody gotta get paid.
Are saved for games like
At
when
least he
Kerry
stopped the pick,
Collins
his
led
bum
the
ass.
Giants against the rock-solid defense of the Ravens in 2001 and just got taken to work. And we're ignoring the
That's no
fact that
good
this
in
year
there,
he
man.
also only barely
My
had a
neighbors gotta
top
be
half of
cooking,
the
'cause I know we
offense
ain't
with
cooking in
pretty
this
minimal
bit.
overall
And,
changes to the Chiefs roster. I mean, they
shoot,
still
I'll
had
fuck around and
Kelsey,
go ask for
Hunt,
some.
Pacheco, as well as 3 Pro Bowlers and 2 All-Pros.
That's
on
Chris
the
Jones
offensive
started?
line.
Hate
So
that
a
fat
lack
boy.
of production was written off mostly by him trying to do his best Tom Brady impression of controlling the clock and managing the game to allow his defense to shine. But that being said, a poor Super Bowl performance could be overlooked, because let's face it, Peyton Manning even had kind of a reputation of not showing up in the biggest games, and he's still seen as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And Aaron Rodgers has had trouble even making it to the Super Bowl, and he's still seen as like the best arm talent the NFL has ever seen. So it'd be pretty presumptuous of me to assume that one poor Super Bowl performance was really going to be the thing to take Patrick Mahomes out of the spotlight. So there was almost nothing that he could actually do to change the way everybody views him, right? Well, that was until 2025. 3 back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls in the rear view, and the Chiefs dynasty appeared to completely collapse. Don't get me wrong, they would start their season 5-4 as they entered the bye week with a few key wins, as the only team to have a winning record that they beat was the Lions before the bye.
Oh, yeah,
But
I
after the
don't
bye,
think they made the playoffs this year.
it truly dissolved. They drop a game to the Broncos
Damn.
and look alive for a
Look,
split
you wish I had
second
a
against
peanut
the
butter and
Colts
jelly
before they had a
sandwich.
true fallout as they
Feel me?
end their season
Let me
with
tell
a
y'all. Let me really tell
6-game
y'all how to make a good PB&J, yo. Hold up, let me really remember how I made that motherfucker. Hold up.
slide, with Mahomes even doing a half checkout as he nurtured an injury in the final 3 weeks, since their playoff chances were already gone, as they would end a paltry 6-11. To say that this was unexpected would be an
I'm gonna just wait for the
egregious
video to finish.
understatement.
I'm gonna get
I
y'all
mean,
what
they
I did.
brought back
Hey, yo,
so
like,
many
comment,
players from
subscribe.
last year. Guys like Xavier Worthy who were ready to take that next step forward from a rookie campaign, and they were supposed to have the literal magic man, Patrick Mahomes, who could make them right anyway. Not to mention they still had Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, Karlaftis,
Yeah,
and
like
the solid
Karlaftis not
defensive
that
unit
good,
who
bro.
were
I
a
don't
top
think he
10
that
defense
good.
in the league. But my God, their offense was just that bad. I mean, this was a bottom third of the league offense, and don't get me wrong,
Them-
I know
yo,
quarterbacks
them
aren't
bum-ass
expected to
receivers,
lead the league in offense
bum-ass
every year.
running
But
backs.
usually when teams
But-
have these
yeah,
incredible
it's 'cause
down
they got-
years,
they
it's
got-
due
they
to
had-
crazy
they got Patrick
extenuating
Mahomes.
circumstances,
They thought they
and
was
not
cool,
just
cream
bringing back your
cheese.
entire team who went to the Super Bowl the year
That
prior
receiver
and having
room
no major
trash.
injuries. Now, this wasn't an absolute death
They
sentence for his
butt
Hall of Fame
booty trash.
chances
Yo,
or
that
anything,
boy's
but I think it
trash.
marks a surefire tonal shift.
Don't
where
get
in
me
the
started on my
past
shit
year in
running
and
back
year
on.
out, the great quarterbacks could always expect
That
a
boy
certain
Pacheco
level
going
of
out there
consistency in
averaging,
play,
oh,
and maybe we should have known
yard-
that Mahomes'
a yard
high
a run.
motor carrying this
Fucking
team was just
bomb.
not going to be able to last
Go-
forever.
yo,
But I think
Hunt was their
everyone
best running
expected
back
him
last year,
to be able
cuz.
to sit back into
Hell
that game
no.
managing
They thought
role like
Patrick
guys like
Mahomes was gonna
Manning,
get out
Brady,
there.
and Rodgers all have
Cling.
had to do a different
Get a
page of their
99
career,
yard
depending
run-
on the
run.
roster structure and scheme, like we sort of saw him do in his 2024 run, where he had let a defensive scorer
No,
and
but
a
real
big
life
pump.
though, I hope Patrick Mahomes don't never win another championship. Don't never win another ring. Don't never have another good season. No more MVPs. I just want the worst for this man, football wise. And if that just happens to intertwine with his personal life, well, whoop de fucking dude, nigga, fuck you. I don't know what you want me to say. I hate you. But yeah, the grilled cheese recipe. I said grilled cheese. Hate grilled cheese. I don't know. I can't like, I don't know. I don't like no cheese powerful meal. Like, I don't know. I can't stand that shit. Like, if cheese is like the main thing I taste, I don't like the taste of cheese too much. I don't like that. I don't want it to be the most powerful taste. Shit don't taste that great. But oh yeah. So look, you take bread, right? So you put the peanut butter on one side, and y'all better not take that crunchy shit. That better be creamy. No pause. I almost said pause. That better be creamy. I ain't gonna. Y'all better not take that crunchy shit. That nigga's nasty. So boom, you do what you gotta do. I put a little bit of jelly on top. You feel me? Cause I like my extra jelly, bro. And then I take the other piece of bread, put jelly on the other side, right? Close it up. Now, stick with me. Look, stick with me. You listen. Put in the oven for a little bit. Just for a little bit. For like 3 minutes, right? On like some good high degree. Just so it can get good, crispy, fast, right? And then you might think this is stupid. But it ain't not that stupid. Look, throw some butter on the pan. Put that bit in there. And then I just flip it, let it crispify some more. Just let that bit sassy. And then you eat it. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Last time I ate that motherfucker, man, I was gone as gone could be, son. And yo, that motherfucker, it tastes. I had it with some chocolate milk. I said chocolate milk. I had it with some milk, regular white milk. Shoot, I need another one on, bro.